Los Angeles and driving are made for each other. Can't live without one another. If you talk about LA, you can do without driving. Then of course you can miss the freeways, and along comes flirting. This time around we look at flirting in the non-verbal sense. Since we already covered flirting in the verbal sense before, in the chapter, Where Did You Learn to Flirt From? Per your Dares to Dreams dictionary, non-verbal flirting strictly alludes to platonic yet playful way of demonstrating interest. And depending upon one's sexual orientation, one would do that to a strange man or a strange woman, in the sense that they'd be strangers, not that they'd be strange per se. Although there's no dearth of strange men on the freeway. Keep in mind, my dear cyber citizens, men are from Mars, and you often find them driving around in their cars, on the freeways, highways, roads, streets, and what have you. So the sooner we learn to deal with it, the better it is for us. You see, not everyone is so fortunate as to be sent from the heaven above, like the fair sex. Oh, did I tell you? I hear men are from Mars. They so claim. And on account of lacking any evidence to the contrary, I am unable to deny them the gospel truth. Here's an addendum though, and the fair sex are from heaven, in accordance with the ingenious theory propounded by your one and only Dares to Dream. When I look around, all I see is flirting. Case at hand, driving on the freeways is so full of flirting. I call it freeway flirting. I'm free to flirt my way to you. And that's what makes driving around so much fun. Any wonder why we spend so much time in our cars in LA? Although flirting, like driving, is not just confined to the freeways alone. Just like dating, driving too can give great insights into an individual and what a relationship with this person is going to be like. You bet. Let me explain with the help of scenarios. Scenario 1. If a driver is honking at you, that's a telltale of a very attention-seeking person. Look at me, look at me. Dude, who has the time? If you are dreaming of a relationship with me, it will be all about me, not you. Scenario 2. If a driver is tailgating you, or if a driver cuts you off, that's a sign of a person not giving enough space. Now, if this person is capable of doing that to an absolute stranger on the freeway, imagine how much personal space you are going to get when you two, if you two, are in a relationship. Scenario 3. If a driver is chasing you. Now that's the same as chasing after someone, or following one on Twitter, or stalking someone on the street. Now, chasing after me works if I am interested as well. Following me on Twitter, that's very flattering too. If, however, you do that on foot, on the street, that's plain creepy. And if you do that on the freeway, oh, that's dangerous, baby. And it's a dead giveaway that this person is in need of professional help. He's sick. Unless, of course, he's a cop. That would mean you are in need of professional help, which is on its way, sure enough. You could have been speeding, inadvertently, of course, just as I was this one time. And sure enough, I was chased by a cop car. You can't blame me for getting my hopes up. The officer took down my address. In the days to follow, I eagerly looked forward to checking my mailbox in the hopes of getting cards, gifts, chocolates, flowers. But all I received was a ticket. No, not for a movie, a speeding ticket. Shy guys have a weird way of showing they care. There's one I know made rice pudding for me on Valentine's Day. Sweet rice pudding. I was so dumbfounded, I thought to myself, boy, how could he? I've never been wooed like this before. It's time to pronounce his death sentence to him. Why? Because I never even liked rice pudding. He happily ate all of it, thereby earning the title Eats a Lot. So I said it. Eats a lot. This is a punishable offense, to say the least. Therefore, thou shalt be condemned to me for life. He's still suffering to date. He has to be the first one to watch every episode and the entire series from the top with every new episode, just so he can put things in perspective. Picking up flirting where we left it off last, on the freeway. Scenario 4. If a driver gives you the finger, no, not this one down from this one, the freeway finger. Well, that's pretty self-explanatory, isn't it? It doesn't get any more flattering than being flipped off on the freeway by a stranger. It's like taking flirting to the next level. There isn't a need to elaborate any further on that. Besides, I still want to keep the contents of the series G-rated. Strictly G-rated. Scenario 5, or the worst case scenario. If a driver rear ends you, no pun intended. Wow, it's like saying, can I get your number? If you're still alive, that is. I would love to take you out to dinner or something. I'm so into you. No pun intended, again. This series is strictly G-rated, for the most part, with a few exceptions here and there. I can't help it if you are letting your imagination run wild, or if you're reading between the lines. Scenario 6, or the best case scenario. If a driver chivalrously lets you change the lane, giving you all the space you need, well, what more could you ask for? He could be the knight in shining armor you've been waiting for all your life. Of course, if he looks like a Greek god, is in the young age bracket, and is driving a Lamborghini. Give him the finger, the freeway finger, as a sign of your appreciation, or quickly rear end him and get his contact info. Clearly, I believe in the equality of sexes, and clearly I have an agenda to help all my dear damsels in distress find their Prince Charming, thereby eliminating the middleman, the frog. More about the frog and the prince and how the former gets you to the latter in the chapter An Actor Should Marry. Let me back up a little bit to where I said this prospective Prince Charming could be in the young age bracket. Age brackets from the chapter How Old Are You apply only to the fair sex. Why? That's like a chapter in itself. Let's see. Season 1 is all scoped out. Let's do a chapter in season 2. Oh, I love you guys. You just gave me an idea for my next season. Do age brackets apply to men? Scratch that. Do age brackets apply to the unfair sex? There you go. If I'm given the finger or get honked at, I try not to take offense, thinking, this is just not the way to court a lady. Where's the chivalry? And that's the whole point of flirting, isn't it? It's not to be taken seriously, and never ever in the wrong sense. DGMW CGMR. If you must take it personally, take it as a compliment and enjoy. I come back home feeling great about myself after having driven for hours at a stretch on the 405 or the 101, thinking 4 or 5 guys tried to get my one-on-one attention today. Woot woot. Yeah, I get honked at a lot. What about you? Fill your days to dream in, won't you? Alrighty, I must be off to flirt. I have a long drive ahead of me. I have a long drive ahead of me. Toodaloo.